Hi to everyone out there in the Hive. So glad to see you all and glad to be with you here as we um, move into our week 6 of our prayer class. So moving right along and going by in a hurry. So if you are just joining us, you can always log in to hiveapiary.com and catch up with some of the other videos that have been posted. And you can also scroll through our Facebook page and find some of our past videos there as well. So it's never too late to join in on our prayer class as well. Lots of exciting things going on, and so check out, Michelle's been posting some great prompts throughout the weeks, and so you can check those out. And we also have a free 20-minute yoga session available courtesy of Hillary. And you'll find that on our Facebook page as well, so you can check those things out and find out more that the Hive is doing. Today's discussion is around Thanksgivings and laments. These things that kind of pull out a whole spectrum in our prayers. And I want to lift up like the whole of that, because I think it's really important to think about, again, going back to the content of our prayer, an honesty that we can lift up in our prayers. One of the things that I note in the Psalms, which I think I've shared, is quickly become a book of the Bible that has grown on me. Is what strikes me is just how much the psalmist will share in an unbridled way through prayer with God. And that even though the psalmist will share so much in that unbridled prayer, there's never this sense that they've shared too much, that they've shared so much that God won't be there for them. And so I look at that book as a model for how we can be invited to bring our whole selves into prayer and bring everything that we are feeling and experiencing into prayer. So there's many that you can check out. Psalm 13 starts out with "How long, O Lord?" And it's just this raw lament. And that's okay to bring to the table. Psalm 51 is a very bearing confession that my sins are before me, and yet there's this sense that what we do and what we're not proud of will not scare God away from us, that we can lift that up in honesty, and God is not chased away by that. And then there's really great ones. Psalm 150 and Psalm 122 are psalms of great joy that you can, when there is something to celebrate and a thanksgiving to lift up, that you can never go too far in that. That there's some great examples of just how to eloquently lift up praise in prayer and song as well. And then Psalm 46 has is a great psalm of assurance and trusting in God's steadfast love. So what we shared with the class today is it can be a really neat exercise, especially if you're still you have some favorite psalms, but you want to expand. Just take a random number, 1 through 150, and pick a psalm and read it and think about how it makes you feel, and think about what are the things that you think are particularly bold about that psalm, and how can you borrow language from that psalm. to lift up in prayer. My only caveat is, unless you have tons of time, I wouldn't pick Psalm 119 unless you're willing to break that one down into sections. That's a ridiculously long psalm. It's about 176 verses. So unless you've got a lot of time on your hands, that might not be the best psalm to start with. But I would offer up, what psalms for you do you draw towards, or which psalms, maybe if you've thought about it any or whatnot, what psalms seem to resound with you? I would say it depends for me on different parts of my life. Sometimes that psalm for me is Psalm 13 of "How long, O Lord?" And then sometimes that psalm for me is Psalm 46, that God is in the midst of the city and it shall not be shaken. It's a psalm of assurance. So maybe you have a favorite one that's been resounding around with you lately. I'd certainly love to know what that one is. But again, I certainly love the example that the psalm sets up, because I think as I think of my relationships with others around me, sometimes there's a fear in those relationships that I could share too much or push people too far, or say something or reveal something that will not be received well, and that someone might take badly, that truth that someone might not be able to walk with me in, and that it might scare someone away. And yet in our Psalms, we see that there's any and everything can be lifted up to God, and any and everything can be shared, and that God is still there in the midst of it. So with our Thanksgivings and laments, that's why I bring the Psalms in, to show that you really can encapsulate a full range of emotion in that. And another striking illustration that we had actually came to us today in our readings that we read today in church, and that many churches read today as their Old Testament reading. The account of Jacob wrestling with the angel, and wrestling, it turns out it was God wrestling and demanding a blessing, and then ending up getting his hip thrown out of socket, and hobbling off with a souvenir of an encounter with God. And as I noted, what was very interesting is a pastor by the name of Mary Hinkle Shore said that prayer is often like a contact sport. And for me, that was a very new analogy that the more I think about it, the more I appreciate it, and the more I love it. That thinking of prayer as a contact sport, that in our prayers, when we struggle, it's okay to flail our fists and swing our fists and wrestle, as long as we still continue to hold on. I think it's healthy to wrestle and to lift up any and everything to God. And even if that prayer is that we can offer at the moment is only "How long, O Lord?" It's okay. The other side of this contact sport, though, is that we believe that often the Holy Spirit will swing back and knock us off our feet in very real and unexpected ways, but ways that we can walk away and say, maybe we've been blessed to see God at work. And so I really love and appreciate that that illustration for what prayer can sometimes be, that prayer is a contact sport. And so sometimes I think now in my prayer life, am I screaming till I'm hoarse? Am I swinging and flailing? Or am I okay to sit for a little bit and just and just sit side by side with God in prayer? Or am I a little calmer in my prayer life? But if I ever do feel agitated, it's okay. It's perfectly fine. We have a great example through Jacob that it's okay to wrestle in our prayers. So looking ahead at a practice maybe that we can take on, and looking ahead in the week, I offered up the prompt of praying the headlines. It acknowledges that a whole lot happens over the course of a week, and a whole lot spans many emotions happen over the course of the week. And you all offered up some really great headlines that you've seen, and I would encourage you to share more of those as well. And thinking about what is it in those headlines that you feel? What kind of longing, or does it bring up in you? What kind of reaction does it bring up in you? And maybe that's a way that it helps you form a prayer. I would also, and this is a little bit of a prelude to a practical session that we're going to have down the road, but I'd also have us think about, in a way, our own, if we were to put our own days into personal headlines, what would some of our own personal headlines be? Would they be highs? Would they be lows? Would they be thanksgivings, laments, joys, or confessions, moments of vulnerability, or moments where we felt particularly like we've been in the right place at the right time? What would our own headlines be? And as much as we've lifted up that you can offer up laments, and certainly share those laments and hand those laments over, I'd also encourage you all to also think through the thanksgivings. That I know for myself that thanksgivings can often be the things that I can belittle in my mind as the day goes on, that I don't let them have as much sway on my day as they really should. That good things do happen, and I don't always give them as much credit as I should. And so I wouldn't want to leave out the thanksgivings either. Even the little things, the people who notice where we are in our days, the people who care about us, the little things that go well as well, if you're having a tough day, and then if you're having a fantastic day, to lift that up and be joyful about it, and figure out creatively just how you can encapsulate that joy, capture that, and save those joyful days for times when you might be having a harder day. So again, and I'll post this in a prompt later this week, but as we've looked at our headlines for the world and the community around us, what are our own personal headlines from day to day, and how do those inspire prayer, and how can they be encapsulated in prayer as well? And you know, even if all you've got is lament, or if all you have is, or if you're not sure how to pray, it's just start to put up what is on your mind, and that's the starting point, and that's where you start to practice that God is there to receive it all, and to wrestle with it all, and to be a part of the contact sport known as prayer. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and thank you for continuing to be a part of this journey through prayer. And I will be posting some prompts throughout the week. Earlier in the week, I may be a little bit more sparse. I'm actually going to be away on a retreat, so that might be a little more sparse, but I will be definitely tuning in midweek and by the end of the week. And so I look forward to hearing from you all. And again, check out our Facebook page and our website, and be sure to tune in to all the exciting happenings on Hive. So hope you have a great week. Take care, and we'll certainly keep you in prayer. Bye.